Alright, and today we are going to go over how to use protractors again. So let's start. Alright, so we need to find these angles, right? So the protractor is already drawn here and it's already lined up properly. So if it's not, and you have a protractor, how to line it up properly is you always put the vertice or angle right in the middle of this circle here. There's always going to be a circle in the middle bottom of your protractor. And then you line up one of the lines with this bottom line right here. On an actual protractor, there will be a line going across from this 0 to 180 at the bottom here. And then you basically just line up the protractor with that line. It doesn't matter which line you line it up. You could line it up with this line as well, but you just have to make sure that the angle is inside this part of the protractor. If the angle is out here, then you're not going to have the numbers to see what what the angle is. So you need to just make sure that the angle is inside of the numbers, inside of this semicircle of the protractor. Anyway, so the one part of this that is, I guess, maybe not one part, but the part that you have to make sure about is that you always start, because there are two sets of numbers. There's the inside and outside. And you always start with the numbers that have a 0 on this line. So in this case, it's the outside numbers. So we're going to use the outside numbers. The inside numbers now become obsolete. As in, we don't use them at all. The inside numbers are not to be used in this problem because the outside numbers start at 0. The inside numbers will give you the wrong answer, unless it is a 90-degree angle, and then both the inside and outside numbers will both be 90 at the same thing. But anyway, always use whatever numbers are 0 at that bottom line. So we're using the outside numbers, and now all we do is find where this is. Now, one thing I've noticed working with some fourth graders is they seem to have an issue of figuring out where this number is. And like they see that there's 90 here and 100 here, and a lot of times kids will say, I don't know, like 105 or 85 or something. And the key is you have to figure out, you're like, okay, here's 90, and then here's 95, and here's 100, right? So 90, 95, 100. So 95 is here, and it is closer to 90 than it is, well, it's closer to 95, but it's closer to 0. It's less than 95. It's between 95 and 90, but it's a little less than 90. So I would say that this angle would be right around 94 degrees. It's almost 95, but it's just a little bit less. So this is an obtuse angle because it is more than 90 degrees, right? Here we go. Now, number 2. Let's look at this. So in this one, the 0 here is on the inside. So we are not using these outside numbers. We are only using the inside, and we are going here. And right now, with the inside numbers, I know that since we start over here, this line is a little bit past 90, right? Now remember, 90 is the point that both inside and outside numbers are the same. But since we're starting over here, this is a little bit more than 90. It's between 90, and then if we're working with the inside numbers, this line down here, okay, is actually 95. I apologize for my handwriting. And then this line is 100. Okay, so this is between 90 and 95, and it's right next to 90. So I would say that's probably right around 91 degrees. Okay, now number 3. We're starting with the 0 here. So we're using the inside numbers. And we're going all the way here. And look at where it is. It's between 160 and 170, okay? And look at where this line is. It is right between 160 and 170, and it is on this midline between them. Do you see how this line right here is the midline between all the numbers, okay? So this right here is the line. So this is 160, this is 170, because we're going by the inner numbers. So this right here would be 165. Because it's right in the middle, you can't even see this midline between 160 and 170 because the blue line is right on top of it. So this is 165. Now we're going to number 4, and once again, the 0 is on the outside. So we go over here. Now, what is this between? So this line right here, I know it's 50 and then 60 over here, so this midline has to be between 50 and 60, which would be 55, and this one is right before 55, right? So this is right before 55, so it's between 55 and 50, but right before, so that would be right around 54. All right, number 5. So we got 0 here, so we're using the outside. And then we have 10, and then 15 is this line right here. And it looks to be somewhere around halfway between 10 and 15, but a little bit closer to 15. So I would say that's about 13 degrees, right? Because it's a little closer to 15, but it's not close like this one or this one, right? So it's a little further away, but it's closer to 15, so I would say it's about 13 degrees. Now, let's see this one. We're starting number 6, so we have the zeros in the middle. So zeros on the inside. So we're using the inside numbers. So right here, so this line is the 100, this line is the 110. So this line has to be 115. And it looks like it's about halfway between 110, or I'm sorry, I just made that mistake that I was saying that I've seen kids make. So it's not that hard a mistake to do. But the number between 100 and 110 is not 115, it's 105. So now we're at 100, and it looks like it's between 100 and 105, and it's a little bit closer to 105, though it's close to the middle. So I would say this is about 103. Okay? And the key, after you figure out your answer, a good way to look at it is you say 103, and then you look at the numbers that it's between. You're like, oh, it's between 100 and 105. Is 103 between those numbers, 100 and 105? Yes. So this is the answer. So it's always good to just check over and just make sure that your answer is between those. I caught myself because I said 115, right? But then I caught myself when I saw, I was like, oh, 115 doesn't make any sense, because I looked down here and I was like 100. So clearly 115 isn't between 100 and 110. So you always just want to double check and make sure. If your answer is 103, and I'm like, okay, well, it's between 100 and 110, is 103 between those numbers? Yes. So it's always good to just double check.